On a quiet Halloween night, in the sleepy town of Little Hollow, two children named Mia and Leo were about to embark on an adventure they would never forget. Mia, a brave 11-year-old girl with a wild imagination, and her 9-year-old brother Leo were dressed in matching pirate costumes, ready for an evening of trick-or-treating. The town's Halloween tradition was well known. Every year, the townsfolk would gather at the local park for a bonfire, storytelling, and a grand costume contest. The climax of the evening was the legend of Old Man Gravely's abandoned house at the edge of town. It was said to be haunted, and children dared each other to visit it on Halloween night. Mia had a particular fascination with this legend. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town in a spooky twilight, Mia and Leo made their way to the park. The warm glow of jack-o'-lanterns and the scent of roasting marshmallows filled the air. A chill of excitement ran down their spines as they joined the festivities. Mia, especially, had an adventurous spirit and longed to do something daring this Halloween. After the costume contest, which Mia and Leo won for their pirate outfits, the time had come for the storytelling. The old storyteller, Miss Abigail, stepped up to the bonfire and began recounting the tale of Old Man Gravely's house.
Old Man Gravely was a recluse who lived alone in the house on the hill, she said, her voice as mysterious as the story. He had a mysterious power that allowed him to see the spirits of the departed, and he would often converse with them.
As the tale unfolded, Mia's curiosity grew. She whispered to Leo,
"What if we went to Old Man Gravely's house tonight? What if we could see the spirits, too?"
Leo looked worried.
"Mia, we've heard stories about how scary that place is. What if the ghosts are real?"
Mia's eyes sparkled with determination.
"Leo, it's Halloween night. What better time to do something daring? Plus, I won't let anything happen to you. We'll just take a peek and come back."
With reluctance, Leo agreed to his sister's plan. After the storytelling ended and the crowd dispersed, they set out towards Old Man Gravely's house. It loomed on a hill, an eerie silhouette against the dark sky, with moonlight illuminating the shattered windows. A shiver ran down their spines, but Mia took Leo's hand, and together they climbed the hill. The house was even spookier up close. Cobwebs adorned the doorframe, and a chill hung in the air. They hesitated, but then pushed the creaking door open and stepped inside. Dusty furniture and faded portraits greeted them as they explored room by room. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their breathing and the eerie creaking of the old house. After what felt like hours, they reached a small, dimly lit room on the upper floor. The centerpiece was a large, ornate mirror, covered in strange symbols and markings. The room had a peculiar sense of foreboding, but Mia was too curious to turn back. She looked at herself in the mirror, and to her astonishment, her reflection began to waver, shifting and shimmering like a reflection on the water. The room seemed to spin, and Mia felt herself being pulled toward the mirror, unable to break free. Leo watched in horror as his sister was drawn into the mirror, her hand reaching out towards him. He tried to grab her, but her fingers slipped through him, and she disappeared, leaving Leo alone in the haunting room. Panic surged through him as he realized Mia was gone. He pounded on the mirror, hoping to bring her back, but it remained silent and unyielding. Trembling and with a heavy heart, he left the room, his eyes filled with tears. He knew he had to go back to town and seek help. Leo stumbled out of the house, his heart heavy with fear and guilt. He reached the park and tried to explain to the townsfolk what had happened to Mia, but they dismissed his story as a child's overactive imagination. They assured him that Mia was just hiding and would return soon. But as the night wore on, Mia did not return. Leo's fears grew, and he became more convinced that the legends about Old Man Gravely's house were true. He couldn't shake the image of his sister being pulled into the mirror. Finally, as the sun began to rise on the horizon, Leo returned to the house, hoping to find some clue that would lead him to Mia. He re-entered the room with the mirror and stood before it, his eyes filled with despair. Then, as the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, he saw a faint reflection in the mirror. It was Mia, but she looked different. She was no longer dressed in her pirate costume. Instead, she was wearing a beautiful antique dress, and her hair was neatly coiled. She appeared to be much older.
Mia, is that you?
Leo whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mia's reflection smiled sadly, her voice echoing from the mirror.
Leo, it's me. I'm trapped in this mirror, but I can communicate with you. I've been here for decades, and I've watched the world change outside while I remain unchanged.
Tears welled up in Leo's eyes.
I'll find a way to get you out, Mia, I promise.
Mia's voice grew faint.
You can't save me, Leo. The mirror is a gateway to another time, another world. I've seen the spirits of those who lived and died in this house. They're trapped here too, just like me.
Leo was overcome with a sense of helplessness. He felt as if he had lost his sister forever.
I won't give up, Mia. I'll find a way to free you no matter what it takes.
As the last remnants of Mia's voice faded, Leo knew he had a long and challenging journey ahead. He had to uncover the secrets of Old Man Gravely's house, understand the mysteries of the mirror, and find a way to bring his sister back. The unexpected twist of the Halloween night was that the legend of Old Man Gravely's house had a kernel of truth. Mia was now trapped in a different time and place, and it was up to Leo to unravel the mysteries of the mirror and reunite with his sister. With determination in his heart and the memory of his sister's bravery, he set out on a quest to rescue her from the haunting of Little Hollow. The night after Halloween, Sam walked home from the abandoned lot that served as a makeshift graveyard for the town's annual Halloween party. He had given up on the party hours ago, after the last of the revelers had stumbled home, and he had sought solace in the dark, silent graveyard. But he had not found peace in his thoughts, only a deepening dread that had been clawing its way up his spine ever since he had left the party, and as he walked home now, he could feel a sickening chill settling into his gut. The night was still and silent, a dreary darkness broken only by a scattering of stars and a pale moon casting its spectral light over the landscape. The air was cold and heavy with the stench of decay, and Sam shivered as he trudged along the path. He knew this land better than anyone, the same dirt roads and winding trails that had been traveled by his ancestors before him. But tonight the shadows seemed to reach further, and he could feel eyes peering out from them, watching, waiting for him to stumble. He cast glances to the left and right as he walked, his heart pounding in his chest, and he could feel the tension mounting in his body. He quickened his pace, but the darkness seemed to stretch on forever, and he was beginning to feel like he was being swallowed up by it. He was almost home, he told himself, and he forced himself to keep walking, even though his legs felt like lead. And then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. A figure, hidden in the shadows, hunched over and cloaked in darkness. Sam stopped in his tracks as his blood turned to ice. He was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear, and he could feel his whole body trembling as he stared at the figure, unable to move or speak. A chill wind swept through the air, and a moment later the figure stepped out of the shadows and into the pale moonlight. Sam gasped, and his heart leaped into his throat. It was a figure he recognized, gaunt and shrouded in a cloak that hung heavily from its frame. It was a figure of death, and it was coming for him. It moved slowly, deliberately, its skeletal fingers flexing as it stepped closer. Sam felt his body tensing with fear, and he wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to get away, but his legs refused to move and his mouth refused to open. The figure stopped mere inches away from him, its face hidden in the shadows. "Do not be afraid," it said in a voice that sounded both strange and familiar. "I only came here to talk." Sam's fear slowly began to recede, and he felt a strange calmness settling over him. He looked up at the figure, and for a moment he thought he saw a glimmer of something familiar in its eyes. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I have a message for you," the figure said, its voice low and menacing. "You will not survive the night. If you do not leave, you will die." And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone, and Sam was left alone in the darkness. He stood there for what felt like hours, too scared to move, until finally he pulled himself together and stumbled home. He reached his house and collapsed on his bed, his mind racing with terror. He had no idea what he had seen or what it had meant, but one thing was certain. Something was out there in the darkness, and it wanted him dead. The next morning, Sam rose early and made his way to the graveyard where he had been the night before. He searched for hours, but there was no sign of the figure or any other living being. He was about to leave when something caught his eye. A small stone resting on one of the grave markers. He moved closer and noticed that it had an inscription carved into it. "I give you this warning out of love, not fear. I have seen what will happen if you stay. Leave now while you still can." Sam stared at the stone for a long moment, his mind spinning with confusion and fear. He knew in that instant who had come to him in the darkness, a specter from his past, a spirit of death that had returned to warn him of danger ahead. With trembling hands, he gathered up the stone and tucked it away in his pocket, knowing he would carry its message with him always. That night, Sam returned to the graveyard with a heavy heart and a determined mind. He had come for one purpose, to confront the figure that had visited him the night before. He waited in silence, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Then, without warning, a figure appeared on the path ahead. It was hooded and cloaked in shadows, but Sam could see its face. It was the exact figure from last night. Sam's heart raced as he slowly walked towards the figure, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. When he was close enough to make out its features, he stopped and stared defiantly into its eyes. "What do you want from me?" he demanded in a low voice. The figure seemed to consider this for a moment before lifting its hand and pointing towards a nearby crypt that stood hidden beneath an ancient tree. "Come," it said simply before turning and entering the small structure. Sam followed without hesitation, knowing what awaited him inside. The crypt was empty, except for a single figure standing in the center of the room. Sam recognized it immediately. It was the killer he had been searching for all these years. The figure turned to face him, its burning gaze fixed on Sam's own. At that moment, Sam realized what he had to do. He had to end this once and for all. The two locked eyes and began to circle each other like two ancient warriors preparing for battle. With every step they took, the tension in the air grew thick and oppressive until finally, they both stopped and faced each other with weapons drawn. Sam clutched a sword tightly in his right hand while the killer held a knife in its left. They stood there for what felt like an eternity before either of them moved again. Then, almost as if on cue, they lunged forward with blades raised and clashed together in a frenzied flurry of movement. Sparks flew from their weapons as they traded blows, each one trying to gain the upper hand over the other. Sam fought with a strength and skill he had never known before, as if his life depended on it, and in a way it did. Finally, after what seemed like hours of battle, Sam managed to wrestle the knife away from the killer and plunged it into its heart. The creature screamed in agony before collapsing to the floor, dead. In that moment, Sam knew he had won. He had finally broken the cycle of violence that had haunted him for so long and could now move forward with his life. He stepped outside into the light of day with a newfound sense of peace and hope for what lay ahead. Leo was determined to free his sister Mia from the cursed mirror in Old Man Gravely's house. The reflection had revealed to him that time flowed differently within the mirror, and Mia had been trapped for decades. Leo understood that he needed to delve into the mysteries of the house and the mirror to rescue her. For days, Leo visited the local library, poring over old books and documents. He discovered that Old Man Gravely had been a recluse who was known for his peculiar abilities. He had reportedly possessed a unique gift, the ability to communicate with spirits. The house on the hill had been Gravely's sanctuary, where he conducted countless experiments and seances to connect with the spirit world. One fateful Halloween night, Gravely performed a particularly powerful seance using the mirror in the room where Mia was now trapped. Something had gone wrong, and his house had been consumed by a spectral energy that had never dissipated. Mia had been caught in the crossfire, pulled into the mirror during that ill-fated ritual. Leo's research also revealed that the mirror was an ancient artifact known as the Specter's Portal. It had been forged centuries ago by a reclusive sorcerer, known only as Malachi, who had used it to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Leo knew he needed to learn how to harness its power to rescue his sister. With the help of an old dusty tome from the library, Leo began studying the art of enchantments and incantations. His journey to save Mia took him to abandoned graveyards, dark forests, and eerie catacombs, as he sought the knowledge and ingredients required for a powerful spell. It was a dangerous path filled with danger and darkness, but Leo pressed on. Eventually, Leo discovered that the mirror was tied to a specific set of incantations and rituals. It was a key to a different dimension, a place where the spirits of the dead existed in a realm between life and death. To reach Mia, he needed to open the portal once more, but he had to be careful. There were many spirits trapped in the mirror, some of whom were malevolent and sought to escape into the living world. On a stormy night, Leo returned to the abandoned house with the knowledge he had gained. He recited the incantations and lit candles, the room flickering with an eerie light. The mirror began to ripple and shimmer, revealing a gateway to another world. Leo steeled himself and stepped through the portal. The spectral dimension was a surreal and ethereal place. Shadows danced and whispers filled the air. Leo felt the presence of countless souls, some beckoning him forward while others attempted to draw him into their torment. But Leo's love for his sister was a powerful force that guided him. He navigated the dimension with determination, searching for Mia. Along the way, he encountered spirits with their stories, each trapped in the mirror's web. Some shared secrets of the Spectre's portal and helped him navigate the complexities of this spectral world. Finally, Leo found Mia, her reflection shimmering with age. Tears welled up in his eyes as he reached out to touch her. Mia's eyes glistened with gratitude, but there was a sense of sadness in her voice.
Leo, you shouldn't have come here. It's not safe. The mirror is a dangerous gateway.
Leo shook his head.
I couldn't leave you here, Mia. We'll find a way out together.
With the help of the spirits he had encountered along the way, Leo and Mia began to decipher a way to break the mirror's curse. They learned of a powerful ritual, the Soul Reckoning, which could release the spirits trapped within the mirror and sever its connection to the living world. The ritual was not without risks. It required sacrifices and a deep understanding of the mirror's magic. Leo and Mia worked together, combining their newfound knowledge and the spirit's guidance to prepare for the Soul Reckoning. On Halloween night, the spectral dimension was in turmoil. Leo and Mia, joined by the spirits, performed the ritual. Candles flickered, and incantations filled the air as they channeled their energy into the Spectre's portal. The mirror trembled and shuddered, its power waning. Finally, with one last surge of determination, the Soul Reckoning was complete. The mirror shattered into countless shards, each one releasing a trapped spirit. The spectral dimension unraveled, and the spirits were set free, disappearing into the unknown. Leo and Mia found themselves back in the abandoned house, the room now bathed in a warm, comforting light. The curse had been broken, and they were safe. As the first light of dawn broke through the windows, Leo and Mia embraced, tears of joy streaming down their faces. They had conquered the haunting of Little Hollow and emerged stronger than ever. Their journey had been perilous, but it had forged an unbreakable bond between brother and sister.